Hi, it's Danielle Redoitchen, and thank you so much for joining me on this, the latest episode of my independent podcast, In Talks With, which aims to shine a light on creative people doing interesting things. In July this year, I was invited to meet a new and upcoming name on the jewellery design scene, Prix Sarr, the French-born, Chicago-based founder of the sustainable jewellery brand Almasika. Self-described as jewellery with intention, her pieces, which are handcrafted in Chicago and feature sustainably sourced diamonds, were first snapped up by the late legendary Paris store Colette and covered in Paris Vogue before being worn by the likes of Michelle Obama, Reese Witherspoon and Amanda Seyfried. Calling herself a vector for change, Catherine is also a co-founder of the Prix Sarr at Les Beaux-Arts Paris, which presents 3 awards annually to students for excellence in a body of artistic work. She herself is one of the first creatives to have benefited from another philanthropic endeavour, the Design Lab launched by luxury fashion brand Prada and the artist Theaster Gates, a programme which aims to foster the work of designers and artists of colour. So, one hot day last July, I went to visit Catherine at her hotel room in Mayfair in London, where I got to try on some of her beautiful pieces and hear about her bright ambitions for herself and the opportunities she's helping to create for others. So Catherine, tell me about what we're looking at here. We're sitting in your hotel room in London while you're here on a visit from Chicago.
Hello.
And we're in a hotel room with a tray of very beautiful pieces sparkling in front of me. Can you start by telling me what this very striking collar is?
Absolutely. So this is a choker that I designed as a special project for Amanda Seyfried, the actress. I was commissioned by De Beers to design a piece using sustainably sourced diamonds from Botswana. So that was my only ask, to use those beautiful diamonds from Africa. And they paired me with a stylist, Elizabeth Stewart, who had in mind one of her clients, Amanda Seyfried, and she knew a little bit about Almasika and especially one of collection called Berceau. And Berceau means cradle in French. So this is a collection that I designed in honor of the cradle of humanity, but also all those people around the world from Vietnam to Kenya who have adornment that they can never take off. So the spirit of this collection is really about jewelry adornment that follow the shape of the body. So when Elizabeth said she was passionate about this collection and she loved it very much, she had seen some cuff and some earrings, she asked me to think about an object for the neck. Again, that was the only thing. So I designed this piece, a choker, and I knew that I wanted the diamonds to be central to this piece because of their story and them coming from Botswana and being sustainably sourced. And you have to know that when I usually design, for me the most important is not the diamonds, is the form, is the shape that I want to perfect in gold. Because for me, this is the most important in my design. So it was a new way of designing, thinking about the diamond first. So you have a series of gradual diamonds, like up to 10 carats, I think, and the bigger one is 1 carat in the middle, but the rest is start from a smaller size and going up. And then you have lines made of 18 karat gold, but I've decided to blacken with black rhodium, again, to give the priority visually to the diamonds, but then have the aesthetic, the signature that you see in my design, flowing lines, rounded shapes, and, hugging in a way. So this is what you have here.
It's so beautiful. It's like really sculptural, and I was lucky enough to try it on, and it feels very nice and very comfortable, surprisingly comfortable to wear. Mm-hmm. What does it? Where did Amanda wear it? I mean, I think it's on. Is it on her Instagram, or you showed me a photo of it somewhere?
She wore. She was very proud of it. She put it on her Instagram, but she wore it for the Time 100 gala in June. I was in June, yes.
It's amazing, and. So De Beers commissioned you as the designer of Almasika to create this,
yes,
as a one-off.
As a one-off with a unique diamonds that they put at my disposal, and they asked me to create a beautiful Almasika piece using sustainably sourced diamonds from Botswana.
So tell me more about Almasika. I know it's based in Chicago where
Yes.
you live, but it has its roots elsewhere.
Yes.
So let's start with you telling me a bit about the roots of the story behind the brand.
Almasika. So the roots, we're here sitting in London, and the roots is in London in a way. I started my career I moved from Paris to London in my 20s, and I worked in PR, and that led me actually to also work for De Beers. When I was there and during my career, I was exposed to the most beautiful diamonds in the world, but I've always wanted to explore the cultural aspect of jewelry. And my journey around the world, like from Paris, London, Abu Dhabi, and now Chicago, I wanted to specifically explore the form, the symbol, and story that transcend cultures. I've always had this interest in finding what we have in common. If I sit with someone at a dinner, I want to know everything about their life, their grandparents' life, and when they come, this is something that is natural for me. And so Almasika is really that, this exploration, but transformed into jewelry, I will say. So there's something that you will see in all my design. So it was born in London, here, where you have this amazing, I will say, population. For me, it was just such a great part of my life. And then now it's based in Chicago with me as well. And this is home now. Chicago is home. And this is the story, this story of exploration.
And you had it sort of via Paris.
Yeah, Paris is where I was born. It will always be home. But our first store, funny enough, was Colette in Paris. We started there in 2014. It was that time where you could have a store where they didn't ask you where you are or who wear your jewelry. It was just they were attracted by that. My first collection, the Cowrie Shell, then symbol of prosperity and spirituality, and first store.
I mean, that's quite amazing because Colette,
amazing.
It still has that legendary status.
Yes,
as being
absolutely.
Such an amazing store. I mean, it's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore.
Sarah Andelman, who was the founder, to have caught her eye is quite a coup.
Yes.
What did she like about Almasika?
So I was not there. So I was. It was very interesting. I was pregnant. Like a lot of time in the past 10 years. I have 4 children. So I was pregnant with my number 2, and I remember assuring her at that time, so you can go and have your baby, and by the time you get your first order, we need to see 2 seasons. And then
no pressure.
Yes, and then 3 weeks after I gave birth, we received our first order, and from what I understand, it was really about the shape. It was, now you see a lot of cowrie shells in jewelry design, but at that time I was exploring it with gold and diamonds, which was really unusual visually. But again, you have this sense of familiarity, I guess, with the shell, those roundness and that you see throughout the world, as well as an early adornment. So I guess there's something, I want to say, without ancestral, like there's a raw attraction to the shell, but then seeing it with gold and diamonds was something very unusual that I, even before understanding the meaning of it, I think it was purely visual. As she said, I want to know more about this.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then that was it. You've kind of been on this upward trajectory.
Yes, it was very fast. Vogue Paris was my first article, and it was very a beautiful journey. And then when I moved to Abu Dhabi, I had to take a step back because I was then pregnant with baby number 3 and 4 at the same time with twins. Took a step back in the US, and then in 2019 I kind of re-explored, and the closest to me was this world of contemporary art, and I had art collectors and curators and institutions where I decided to do trunk shows and really understand if my aesthetic that is quite understated and Parisian was something that could translate in America, and especially Chicago. And then those went really, really well. The aesthetic and the meaning behind the collection was something that was appealing. And in 2020, even more so, And that's where I decided to relaunch in retail. And Net-a-Porter was an early, adopter and supported me as well.
So you moved to Chicago with your husband, who I think moved there for work.
Yes.
And you sort of have established yourselves there and as a sort of in the world of philanthropy, and you've built this quite, from what I gather, quite extraordinary art collection. Tell me about, tell me how you came to start why are you collecting art? What drew you guys to it? And tell me about some of the pieces that you have.
Yeah, so I have to give full props to my husband because he really started out our collection. He's passionate about photography, and especially started with African photography. And I always remember where there was a point where I didn't want to see his photography in our wall. And he liked to say that story that was like, oh, why would we see other people's grandparents on our wall? Because he had the Malik CDB and the Seydou Keita of this world. But when you dig deep, it's actually part of history. So those great photographers capture a part of African history. And that's what draws me into art and contemporary art, is really this marker of history. And especially when you collect art from the African diaspora, which we have quite a lot on photography and painting. And then also in our collection, the other part of us, there's a bit of introspection in our collection, is that French element. So we have and we support a lot of emerging French artists who now are not so more emerging, but we've decided to support them. And
who are some of the examples?
So we have Dewadi Ashdab, who's now at Kamel Menour, Iman Yamignon, Abdelak. So we have those great names that are starting to emerge from France. A lot of painting.
So was the goal to sort of raise awareness of them in Chicago?
So the idea was, first it started because we supported them, so supporting them by buying their art, and then through our discussion we realized that there was a need for emerging artists between the time where they leave school and one of the greatest academic formation in the world with Les Beaux-Arts Paris and the art world. They needed a bit of help, so the prize was really about that, like giving them help and window to first of all focus on their practice, what do they want to do, and then giving them a window to America, I will say, modern Chicago, where the world of contemporary art is just I will say the most sophisticated, in the end, like galleries and institutions. It was to really give them that opportunity, and give the opportunity of French artists to help write the a parallel history of France, I will say.
So there was a sort of philanthropic aim behind your collecting, and when you mentioned the prize, that's something that you co-founded with your husband in 2021, the Prix Sarr.
The Prix Sarr, yes.
Which you founded with or at Les Beaux-Arts in Paris.
Yes.
Tell me a bit about what it does.
So in 2020, when we were in lockdown, we were still discussing with our artist friends, and we were advising them, and we felt that art is important as well. Telling the stories, being a vector of social change, and we wanted to support them. And we were very inspired by the philanthropy that we saw in Chicago. So Chicago is a civic city where art is not just mundanity. It's really, there's this sense of mission. What are you doing for the city is something you've been asked often. What can change? This is a city where we have Theaster Gates, who is changing the south side, for example. So we wanted to take what we're seeing there and being inspired by there and bring it to France and helping artists there, telling their story, also being a vector of social change. And we were close to Les Beaux-Arts through all the artists we were supporting, and we spoke to Jean Deloisy, who used to be the director of Les Beaux-Arts, but also the director of Palais de Tokyo. So a real understanding of what it takes to go from a talented student artist to potentially, one of the greatest artists. And he followed in our, crazy vision, and we set it up. It helped us set us the price with Les Beaux-Arts. And we wanted to partner with Les Beaux-Arts because they have one of the best, education.
Such a prestigious organization
as well.
Yeah.
And so then we put together a jury because we didn't want to be emotional about it and and biased. So we had curators, collectors, and an artist as well. And I'm so glad we choose an artist in the jury because for the first edition, I remember we were discussing about first prize, second prize, and third prize, and it was very emotional about those distinctions. He's like, for an artist, it's very hard to be loser and winner, and that notion we give ourselves, and all of a sudden you're number one, number two, number three. And so we change it. So you'll see there's no ranking. The three of them are, we call them laureats. So the three are winners in a way, but we don't even use the word winner. But the three are recipients of the prize, and one go to Chicago in partnership with the Villa Albertine, which is a residency program set up by the French Cultural Services.
And the hope is that when they go to the Villa Albertine, they do a residency there and get to have access to art world experts or people who can help further their careers.
Absolutely.
What's the idea?
So Villa Albertine is a residency program for, I will say, established artists. So they have, writers and sculptures. It's really for established artists. We are the only prize where you have like emerging or artists starting their journey. But the idea is really for them to build those residency programs where it's a time of reflection and research. So we're not asking the artists to produce anything there. It's really their time to do some research. We've noticed with the first one who's going to come in September.
Who's that?
It's Pierre-Alexandre Savria-Coty, the winner from 2021. The first, he already asking about galleries and other artists that he wants to connect with. He's in admiration with a lot. In Chicago we have a lot of prestigious artists as well who've changed the narrative in the art world. So for him it was this connection, but also we have the Lake Michigan. He wants to do some research as well. So it's really a time for them like to pause between having graduating and then going into this fantastic world of the art world. So it's really for the artist.
And then you mentioned Theaster Gates already, and you of course were one of the recipients of his program.
Yes.
You were selected as one of the design creatives in the partnership that he has done with Prada called Dorchester Industries Experimental Design Lab.
Yes.
Which is a 3-year design program.
Absolutely.
Sounds absolutely amazing.
Yes, it's actually even more than you have design in the in title, but when you look at the other awardee, there's a chef who was in Top Chef, Damar Brown. There's a interior designer. There's an organic farmer in Brooklyn. So I think the idea it was to put together some creative, first of all, acknowledging what's different in their practice and what they felt was not futuristic, but very different. So I think what they appreciated in my design practice was really the research and the meaning behind the jewellery and that connection, cultural connection that we are all thriving for now. And also they said that they want us to build a relationship with each other and see what we could do organically. It could be in 3 years, in 5 years, but they felt like the people that they selected, could potentially have a voice for a long time, and then see, in 10 years from now, like, would we do something together? And we're already building our own community. And I think that was the idea, like building a community of thinker, and that the result of this, thinking will take different shape because we all are. I'm the only jewelry designer, for example.
Yeah, well, I'm sure. And it's nice how they gave equal importance to different disciplines, whether it is culinary or artisanal or painting, what have you. It feels really nice to give equal weight to all those different things. And it's very specifically serving a platform to help Black artists or Black creatives and give them access to industry insiders and really help them. It's a kind of a proactive, progressive program. Do you think that these sort of things are having an impact?
Yeah, I think most of those programs were born in 2020. So I think in 2020 there was this, in great movement. There's this time of pause and thinking, when the situation doesn't feel is right. And I think for Theaster, being a prominent contemporary artist, I think what he wanted to say is that, and in many industries, like people said, there's no pipeline, we cannot find those talent. And what he wanted to say is that actually those talents are here. So, and that's why I feel like he took different creative at different stage of their process. One is already working a lot with Art Basel and doing collaboration, and I think he wanted to say the talent is here. So I think 2020 to 2022 is great to say all the talents are available, so there's no excuse. And I think the next phase, how do you work with those talents? I feel like it's we're entering the phase where it's the talents are available in and can work in any capacity. I think you don't even need to mention the color because we are here, and just focus on the practice.
What was it like being going on the retreat? What was that? What did you do?
I will say it was very, very humbling. I left thinking I need to do more for the world because and again, at no point during the retreat I was thinking, oh, I'm with Black talents. It was just, you had this lady, Yemi, in Brooklyn, who do some aquaculture and grow some organic okra in the middle of Brooklyn. You have Maya in Chicago, who just changing neighborhoods. So I left humbled but full of admiration and very inspired. Even my own practice changed in Chicago, because when I studied Almasika, sourcing and sustainability was at the core. So I never even had to mention it, because for me, where I produced the jewelry was depending on what kind of diamonds I could have and if I could source everything. So that was at the core. But I've always felt like I wanted to contribute positively to the community. So at some point it was do I produce, in Southern Africa where the diamonds come from? And I had this whole reflection. And then in Chicago it became really clear, where I thought, long term, what I want to do is being able to have a bit like what Theaster is doing, but have jobs creation and really make sure that, not as a brand or a designer, but as a company, when you as a business, you contribute to the community around you. This is a long journey, but at least this is part of my thinking, and it's a small brand, but it's great to have this thinking of how, as a company, you contribute early on.
And so that you can actually see that there has been some actual tangible impact from taking part in the program on your business.
Yes, absolutely.
And are you still in touch with Theaster? And does he keep an eye on you since finishing the program?
Absolutely. He's wonderful. He's committed. We admire him a lot in Chicago because of what he's doing in the South Side, but also, again, that's rethink how you contribute. And I feel like also when I think about the prize and being a social vector change, you never know what inspires everything. I know some key element, but being able to interact with Theasters long time ago is also part of that thinking. Is the Chicago spirit.
I love that. Also, the reading about the prize and your involvement of it, it reminded me of Aurora James and the founder of Brother Vellies and the work that she's been doing when she launched the 15% pledge, which encourages brands to commit a certain amount of shelf space and over to black designers. Do you think that those kind of things are making a difference?
Yes, I think
not
so.
Not just in Chicago, but
I think Aurora James, it was very specific. It was for the black community and in the fashion space. Us is different because it's really French emerging artists, like really, contributing to the rethinking the French society as well. I think what it's common to those two initiatives, and I got a chance, actually, I was in Paris last week to speak to the creator of a new art prize, but thinking about health and artists. But all those initiatives shows that as Aurora is building her brand, as I'm growing as a jewelry designer, there's always space to share the love, share the access, share the resources, and making sure collectively, that people thrive outside of you. I think she has no benefit doing that. She's doing it really for a bigger purpose. And I think that's what you're seeing more and more in philanthropy, is people who want to share. And I think when you think about the philanthropy in the US, is really about giving back. So you have people who have extreme wealth, they're already sorted, and then they think about like, what else can I do? But you have those initiatives of people who are growing and that are ready to share what they have. So I think that will be the common point.
Yeah, it's a nice shift, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how are you hoping to kind of gather all these different strands that you're involved with and take it forward in future? What are your big plans? I'm sure you've got big ideas.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it has been interesting to see how, being involved with contemporary art and being alongside artists has kind of impacted me, even in my practice, because I'm really comfortable working in the abstraction. So I was telling you about the Terra Nova collection, where it's an abstract vision of the globe, because in jewelry a lot of things have already been done. So going into the abstraction is really helped me further my design aesthetic, and going into places where I would not have explored visually. But also I'm very proud that to work in collaboration with artists who are humbly said they're inspired by my work as well. So that has been happening quite a lot this year. And the prize is very important to me. Next year will be the third edition. So everything feels into place. They all live together. So my jewelry practice and the art, art involvement, they live together. I've done this project with Sotheby's, for Almasika.
What's the project with Sotheby's? We haven't spoken about that on this yet. No.
So Sotheby's, this cuff, I designed it last year for Sotheby's. They had this exhibition.
So it's a gold cuff with a diamond? Or
it's a gold cuff.
You describe it.
Yeah, so it's a cuff inspired by one of our collection called Sagesse, where I explore forms and symbols that really you find in different culture. And at the center you see concentric circles from that necklace that you saw on Michelle Obama as well. And I transform it as a
Michelle Obama cuff. Wore this, you mean?
Yes, this one. It's called the Universum, universe in Latin. And that cuff I designed for an exhibition for Sotheby's last year. So those words are kind of beautifully mixing now for me. Yeah.
It seems to me like you're a very modern embodiment of artist and creator, I think, with all those different strands meeting. But it's super interesting. So thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to In Talks with me, Danielle Radoichin. The sound and theme music is by Woogie Productions, and the artwork is by Patrick Waugh. If you enjoyed this episode, please pass it on to someone who you think might also like it. Please subscribe and leave a review. To pitch for guest ideas, you can DM me via my socials at Danielle Redoitjen. Thanks for listening.